sexually molested in the shower by an unseen force, and then it would sexually molest her in the bed at night, and she could sit there and watch her husband while it's happening to her, but she couldn't call for help. And he seemed to almost be in a comatose state while this was going on. So they asked us to come over. Sharon and I just sat down at the kitchen table, and they're across the room from us in a couch, and clear as day, we're provocation enough to these things when we go to these places, so we don't do provocation. It sounded like somebody inside that wall with a bat smacked it so hard that the couple on the other side of the room, they actually got airborne off the couch. And they never moved. They were so shocked, they just got airborne and sat right back down and just kept staring at us. And so we did our thing, but here's the big mistake. This is what I want you to take from this. We didn't know what we were doing. We did a Ouija board seance.
Oh, no.
But this is long before I became ordained and went down that road. So we do a Ouija board. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning and we're driving home from the case. And Sharon's phone rings. She looks at her caller ID. There's nobody on there. My dumbass tells her, answer it. She answers it. Nobody's there. We go home. That night, as I'm sleeping, I'm having a dream of somebody over me doing this.
Jesus.
To the point where it wakes me up once. And I'm like, what the shit? I'm just sweating profusely. I end up going back to sleep. And it's doing it again. I can't sleep the rest of the night. I wake up again, I can't sleep. That day, I'm eating in the kitchen and I hear kids playing in the living room. Not the living room, the garage. There's a lot of kids in the neighborhood. I think maybe I left my garage door open. So I go out there and check. There's nobody playing, no kids playing in the garage. Later that day, I hear kids playing in the garage again. I get really pissed off. My dogs are barking. I go in the garage again. Nobody's out there. Later, I go out to do some gardening. I don't know if anybody has seen these birds. I've never seen these birds before or since. They weren't crows. They weren't blackbirds. In the sunlight, they looked a deep chocolate brown, but in the shade, they were jet black. They had like fluorescent green eyes. About this big. There's 2 of them above my front door. And every time I go out to do any gardening, they start dive bombing me and coming at me aggressively. It doesn't matter if I hit them with something or I shoot them with a coat, spray them with the hose. They just keep dive bombing me to the point where it's just too uncomfortable to stay out there any longer. I go back in the house. A little bit later that day, I go into the garage. The garage is just a swarm of bees. I gently shut the door and I'm like, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I can't afford a beekeeper to come over here. So I come up with this brilliant idea. I make this makeshift bee suit. I got a bag over my head with holes. And I got like 9 jackets on and 5 pairs of pants and got my pants pushed into my socks. And my plan is to go out into the garage, not swat at anything, because I don't know if they're African bees. I'm going to die. So I'm not going to swat at anything. I'm going to go over to the garage door, gently unlatch it, come back in the house, go out the front door, gently open the garage door, go back in the house and pray they leave. That's exactly what I did. I'm telling you. It was intense. Did that. Went out, opened the thing, get back in the house, get outside, open the garage door. I'm like, oh, went back, back in the house. A couple hours later, I go out there, bees are gone. Thank you, Jesus. Shut the door. I'm sleeping again that night. My friend's back.
Jesus.
And I wake up, I jump out of bed into ankle-deep water. Water main in our bedroom burst.
Oh, no.
Flooded us out of the master bedroom. To this day, this was a while ago. To this day, we're still sleeping on a California queen in the living room. We made that room an office after all got fixed up. And now we have 2 offices, a workout room, and we're still sleeping in the living room. And we enjoy it because the kitchen's right there, the guest bathroom, the dogs love sleeping with us, the doggy door's there, and the big TVs. And it's much more quieter in that part of the house than it was in the master bedroom, so it all worked out. But it flooded us out of the room, and then Sharon started, things were a little weird with Sharon, a little off. And I didn't bring it to her attention, and I don't know, this might even be the first time that she's hearing me say this, but I could tell there was something off about her. Like, just off. And that's when I started reaching out for help to people. You know, what have I gotten myself into? Something's here in the house. And I've talked to many demonologists, deliverance ministers, spiritual warfare ministers, exorcists, for help to try and get this thing out of the house. And I'm telling you, you'd be sitting watching TV and it would sound like a pterodactyl would land on the roof. Boom! And just run, heavy hoofing with like claw, run across my roof. And run back to the other side and then sound like it crashed through the roof into the attic. I'd go and peek in the attic, nothing's up there. Then I would hear what sounded like a banshee screaming in my backyard. Nobody could hear this. The dog never reacted. Sharon never reacted. So she's got an attachment I'm fearing by her behavior, but I know I'm the ultimate target. It sounds like a feral cat being ripped apart by wild dogs right in my backyard. I would even go out there and I could hear it 10 feet from me. There's nothing there. Then I start going out and seeing the solid three-dimensional person either standing across the street, and I think it's my neighbor at first. I wave. He doesn't wave back. I wave again. Is that my freaking neighbor? And then he'll just like sink into the floor and be gone. I'm like, that's not the neighbor. You know, coming out from behind trees and then going back behind trees in my yard. It was just a bad time. So I reached out for help. The path that I got on eventually led to me becoming ordained. But it wasn't long after that, Sharon and I worked a case at my work because something followed me to work and jumped from me to the workplace and started terrorizing the night nurses, scratching, biting night nurses in emergency, and people were freaking out, so the superintendent asked me and Sharon to come and investigate. Now here's another mistake. I should have turned that down because she was already, I feared something was happening, and she was the target that night, and we have pictures on the website where I'm taking pictures of her standing there talking to nothing, but in the reflection of the window you see something right up against her, talking to her.
Wow.
So, right after that, she comes home from work one day, and she's talking like she's drunk. And I'm like, honey, what's wrong with you? Have you been drinking? She doesn't drink or smoke. No, they got a bad tooth. Went to the dentist. God bless him, because it was misdiagnosed by the first two doctors we saw. The dentist went in there and said, you got to go see an ENT, ear, nose, and throat specialist right now. We went, and it was a very rare form of tongue cancer called squamous cell carcinoma. Within a matter of 2 weeks, she couldn't even swallow water. And that eventually spread to her thyroid and became medullary thyroid cancer, which isn't regular cancer. It's the kind of thyroid cancer that spreads, which you did into a bunch of lymph nodes in her neck. And I talked to, I'm not a big fan of mediums, but I talked to some mediums who said she is under an insidious attack, an extreme insidious attack. And think of the insidiousness of this nature of this attack. Tongue cancer. You know, who gets tongue cancer like that? And, you know, doesn't want you to talk, doesn't want you to preach, doesn't want you to talk about Jesus or to command it to the foot of the cross. You know, wants to just, you know, we went through hell she didn't speak for 6 months, had a feeding tube in for over a year. They wanted to take her tongue out at one time. We dodged that bullet. So after 35 straight treatments of radiation and 8 weeks of chemo, which almost killed her, We just recently found out all her doctors didn't expect her to live, and they didn't tell us that till just recently. Good thing they didn't. But we went through hell. My sister sent me a bottle of holy water from Lourdes, France. It's a grotto there where the Virgin Mary has appeared many times to people, and the waters there are considered holy and sacred. And she sent me a bottle of that water. Somehow I was able to get that down her. I made her drink it. Bottom line is, I know what you're thinking. Did the chemo and the doctor save my wife's life? Absolutely. Was there also extreme divine intervention that saved her life? Absolutely, because when she was laying in bed with fentanyl patches and Lortab elixir, the strongest you can get, sometimes I'm in real pain, I take some of that stuff. I love that stuff. I would sneak out and go to the all-night prayer chapel by my church, and I did the same thing my mother did. I crawled on my hands and knees up to the altar, prayed for my wife's life, and told them that this is the path that I would be on if they saved us. So, anyway, so the point I want to get is Satan is a psychotic murderer who sat on the throne with his creator, God, and then tried to murder him and take over heaven with his fallen angels, who are older than time itself. We don't know how many of them there are. We don't know how powerful they are, what they're capable of doing. A demon once told an exorcist, if we could be seen, we would block out the sun. So we know that and we know that this is their world, so they're around us all the time. You have to be careful what you do, because you're all targets, and you got to fight back. So what I did from this point on was I took a year off because I wanted to get her better. Turned down a lot of cases, but it gave me time to meet my mentor, Deacon Katie McDonald, first woman to be ordained a deacon in the Catholic Church since 1000 AD. She's responsible for me becoming ordained, and she helped me. Then I started, it was like I hit the imaginary ding to start the fight, because as soon as that happened, the demonic cases started rolling in. And I started working them without Sharon because I was scared to death to expose her anymore. I knew that she was a target. Now my gift of discernment is I can see them, and I can also hear them, and it starts like a bumblebee in my ear and then turn into actual clear voice, as if somebody's actually talking to you like this, and they tell me the terrible things that they're going to do to my wife if we don't get out of the home, I don't get her out of there. They're like gangsters, and they want to go after what you love. So, many exorcists, demonologists, spiritual warfare ministers, deliverance ministers, the legit ones have been called to this field, and they're trying to get me to stop talking about it. But the legitimate ones are called to this field. And many of them go their whole career and never work one demonic case. I happen to have worked 5 of them in a row, back to back to back. And the interesting thing about this was every client knew one another. They were either friends or they knew each other professionally. So they either knew each other personally or professionally. And it all started with a friend of mine from work because something followed me to work. She had I believe her son was 30 years old, Down syndrome, sitting at home, and he would exhibit behavior like not wanting to sleep in his bedroom anymore. Now, autism, Down syndrome, they're very regimented. He wouldn't want to sleep in his bedroom anymore. He'd want to sleep in the hallway. He'd wake up screaming in the middle of the night, and then soil himself, which he would never do. He would sometimes do that by accident, but like never in bed, waking up screaming like something's trying to kill him. So she asked me if I'd come and check it out. So, the demon appeared to me as her daughter on that case. And when I realized it wasn't her daughter, and everybody was downstairs and I was blessing the home, and I came upstairs and went into the master bedroom, well, her daughter walked out to me and met me at the bedroom, because that's where it was most powerful and it didn't want me going in the bedroom. So it stopped me dead in my tracks. I can start seeing my breath. I can start smelling. I'm not even going to attempt to describe the smell. You know it when you smell it. And I know that that's not her daughter, because I know the daughter's downstairs. When I start hitting it with holy water, it turns into like a pig cat type creature that runs at me, making me get out of the way, leaps over some stairs into the son's bedroom, onto a bed and out a second-story window. So we ultimately did an exorcism on that home, but the family did have to leave because at that time the exorcism, whatever I did there wasn't powerful enough, and it was still messing with the family, and we feared it was location there. So they moved. They're in Idaho now. I'm in constant contact with them, and they're still having some minor issues, but good thing they did move. Things are better. But the doctor that she worked for started having convulsions out of nowhere. And when we went to go see her, she would just go, ow! And you would just see the bite mark appear on her hand. Ow! And you would just see the claw mark. Wow. She would go, it's right there. And you'd see this big heavy plant move. Then she started going into her convulsion, and I knew right away that's not a normal convulsion. So I made Sharon and another friend of mine put her down on this recliner chair in the living room. I said, just hold on to her. We don't want her to fall and get hurt. And we all start praying, and I start pouring holy water over her head and doing stuff. And you could see just a black mist come down over all of us. Sharon's giving me the look. It's cold. My friend's giving me the look. The lady's having this convulsion. And all of a sudden, I'm asking it to come out. Get out of her, get out of her. And it blasts right through me. It just blasts right through me. It takes all the air out of me. And I almost feel like I'm about to pass out, but I don't. And they didn't even realize what happened. They're still praying over her. And I sense something behind me, and I turn. And watch for this solid three-dimensional figure confronting you. It turns, it goes down the hallway. Now I feel it's in retreat. I've got to follow it. I follow it to the master bedroom. I can hear it going up a ladder that I had set up to go to the attic. So I turn, I go up the ladder. Good thing I had my glasses on, because as soon as I got to the top of the ladder and looked in, it's on all fours and it spits at me. So it gets all over my face. Now that's demonic venom. You don't want to ingest that stuff because you get violently ill and can possibly die from it. That's why so many people in my field have bad illnesses just out of nowhere because of these types of encounters. I call Katie. We set up the exorcism. The woman disappears. As soon as I told her what was going to happen, we don't even know where she's at now. She left belongings there in the home. Gone. Boom. The investigator I had with me on that case calls me up. He's not feeling well. He thinks he's got an attachment. I go and put a blessing on him. By the way, one of my co-workers has a young daughter, autism this time, not Down syndrome, waking up in the middle of the night and being found in the living room with all the lights turned out, sitting in an Indian position just looking at the TV and the TV's not on, in the dark. And when she goes to ask her, honey, what are you doing out here? What's wrong? Grandma's protecting me from the man with no face. Well, Grandma had died many years before the girl was even born, so she didn't know Grandma. So she asked me to come over. I didn't take Sharon. Kind of thought I should take her on this one. It's a good thing I didn't. They're all in the living room. I sense something not right in the master bedroom, and I start walking down the hallway. And it's so pitch black in there, but I can see in the doorway something's even darker than the dark. And before I know it, it is on me. And I don't know if I did this, but it felt as though I was off the ground, totally bent back to where I said, my back's going to snap because I can't bend anymore. I can't scream, I can't talk, I can't move. And it feels like a giant has grabbed me and he's just crushing me. You don't have any fear at this time. You just figure, I'm dying. Am I having a stroke? Is it something different? Because your mind can't wrap around. Your mind just cannot wrap around these things when they happen to you that fast. Bad electrical sensation starting in the feet that moves all the way up through the body, and it felt like it stopped my heart, felt like it stopped all thought pattern. I'm oblivious to everything, and it feels like I'm actually being pulled down, and then I can just hear what sounds like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of souls just crying and in pain and in agony and crying and I hear a little voice say, "Pray, dummy, pray." Now here's the interesting thing. The voice was the voice of my mentor, Katie, but she's in Oklahoma. And we argue about this all the time because she's got strong discernment too. She says, "How do you know it wasn't me? How do you know I didn't know that you were in danger? We've already worked cases together. I trained you. How do you know I didn't know you were in danger? And that was me telepathically telling you to pray, dummy, pray." I said, "I'll give that to you. Maybe it was." I think, though, it was my guardian angel making him or herself, I think it's a she, sound like Katie, because I wouldn't have recognized another voice. I would recognize Katie's voice. And I have seen my guardian angel, and funny enough, she looks like Susan Sarandon. Much younger version of Susan Sarandon. True story, she saved my life twice. From drowning and from a car accident. But I start praying. The only thing I can think to pray is the Our Father, and I must have said it. It felt like I said it 50 times in a row. And all of a sudden, everything stopped. And I opened my eyes, and I don't really even know where I'm at. But as my eyes get accustomed to the blackness, I see that I'm looking at the ceiling. And I start looking around. I'm in the master bedroom. Something carried me all the way from the hallway to the master bedroom and laid me on the bed. I sit up, and I go, "What is going on here?" I realized that I had defecated and urinated in my pants. Now, that hadn't happened to me since I was a little kid, so I knew something so horrible had reached into my very soul, and that I couldn't handle it, and I was done. So I got up, I'm embarrassed, I had a Redskin jacket on, go Skins, this last night. I take my jacket off, I wrap it around me because I'm embarrassed. And it's dark in the house. And I just walked out and I said, "Investigation's over, I've got some evidence, I'm going to go home and review it. I'll be in touch." Okay, let's get the lights on. They were already freaked out anyhow. I wanted to turn the lights on and let's get it done. And I leave and I go home. I was done. I said, this isn't for me. I can't keep them off me. I don't have the power to keep them off me. So then I get a call from Angela. Have you guys ever seen the original Wolfman? The Wolfman, or the remake of the Wolfman? You remember Malerva, the gypsy woman? I go to see this woman because her story was I got demons trapped in my luggage. I gotta go check this out. So I go to her house, and it's pretty creepy. She opens the door, I'm looking at this woman from the old country, old gypsy woman from the old country, speaking, she's
Big box. Is that what you're talking about?
No, she had luggage. We saw the luggage move, we heard stuff in the luggage, I thought maybe she killed a kid, put it in the luggage. So we're feeling it around. She said, "Just get the luggage out of here. Don't throw it away, because if somebody else opens it up, the demon will come out, it'll get you, then it'll come and get me, but just do something with the luggage." I'm freaked out. I take the luggage to a pastor friend of mine, Pastor Karen, who did some deliverance prayers over and laid hands on the luggage. The luggage good, take it back to the lady. Said, I'm not going back by myself, and I'm not taking Sharon, you come with me. It took some convincing, but Pastor Karen went with me. We go back to get the lady her luggage, and we decide to pray, and I'm freaked out. It's 12 noon in the middle of summer in the desert, and she's got all her curtains open, but it's like a dungeon in there. And it's like, it's just bad. So we join hands, we're going to say some prayers. As I'm saying this prayer, all of a sudden I'm not there anymore. I just know that I'm looking up, and it's the brightest light I've ever seen, and appearing through the light is the silhouette of a person. And so many things are going through my head. Have I stroked out? Am I about to die? And then this person is one whole body of flame, nothing but flame. And he raises his right arm, maybe it's a female, not a sword, looked just like an arm, and it makes the sign of the cross over me, and it floats over my head, and it makes the sign of the cross in all four areas of the house. And when it's done and it spins, I open my eyes back up, I'm back in the living room. Both the pastor and Angela are looking at me like this because they know something's happened to me, but they don't know what. The house smelled like a garden. There was so much light in there, and I still think Angela's crazy, but I do think she had demonic oppression and infestation going on, but they were gone. That was my vision of the Holy Spirit. I believe it was the Holy Spirit that got me back into doing what I do. I felt that God was sending me a message that he had my back and not to worry about it any longer. But God always tests you. The next case, the Burke case. Sharon's still recovering. Don't want to take her on this one. Mom calls me, single mother, 10-year-old and like a 14-year-old if I remember. You have to come over to my house. There's something wrong with my son. He comes home from school the other day and says there's a weird kid that approached him in the park that wanted to play with him, but nobody else could see the kid. The kid weirded him out and he ran home, and I think the kid was a ghost and the kid's now in the house. I said, well, tell me what happened. Well, he comes home and tells me the story. I got mad at him. I run outside. There's no kid. About 3 o'clock in the morning, my son climbs into bed with me, and then I realize he feels wet. And he smells bad, and it's cold in here, and I turn around and there's nobody in the bed. The following morning, my son's having breakfast, and I ask him, did you come into my bed last night? And he says, no, Mom, that's some little kid, he's here. This is how fast this happens when you're targeted. This is how fast it happened. The following day, she calls me up, you must come now. My 10-year-old is not who he's supposed to be. Almost killed his older brother, and I fear for my life. I've had to send my oldest son out of here. Come now. So I go over there, and I know it's the house when I come into the neighborhood because there's a woman sitting on the curb, and she looks like she was in her underwear. She didn't want to go back in the house, and she's waiting for me on the curb. I pull up, she gives me a big hug, shows me a picture of her son, and says, that's my son. What's in there is not that, not my son. So, another thing, when I was becoming ordained, I started doing what my mother did, was I get on my hands and knees at the threshold of the house and say a prayer to St. Jude on my behalf to petition for me, for God to please send some guardian angels down and walk with me across this threshold while I'm on this property. So I do that, I crawl on my hands and knees over the threshold, get up, I go up to the bedroom. Now somehow this 10-year-old had picked up his bunk bed, moved it to the other side of the room and has it wedged up against the bedroom door. She can't even get in. So I force and finally get it open enough to squeeze in, and I see him in the far corner of the bedroom sitting down with, like Indian position with his back against the wall. I get in there. I say a couple of things to him. He looks up at me. And he looked like a 100-year-old man. And I didn't think it was a joke. I thought maybe it was like an old man. But I knew it was the kid. and he lowers his head, and then it gets me again. Same boom, and I just thought, they got you this time. You fell into the trap. You were where it shouldn't have been here. They got you this time. So all I can think to do when I do this is just yell, "No!" And I just drop like a sack of potatoes on the floor. And it feels like I have no bones left. Like I'm just on my knees, and I'm just like a sack of potatoes. And I'm just waiting any second to start getting the shit kicked out of me by whatever. And I start to come to a little bit, and I fall onto my hands, and I realize I'm not on carpet anymore. I open my eyes, and I'm in the desert. And now my whole world the reality has just exploded, and I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if I thought about what was going on. My whole world is just now, and it just exploded. I'm thinking, maybe, did I get mugged and drugged out to the desert? Then I see the little kid sitting in the dirt across from me, and then I feel something on my right side, and I'm like this. I feel something over here, and I turn, and it's Jesus on the cross. Now, for all the theologians out there, this is my vision. He is on a tree, and the tree's bent like this. And there's a smaller piece of the tree that's just set on top, balanced on top, somehow wedged in there, balanced on top. He's on the tree. I don't see nails. I see straps. There might have been nails there, but I see straps. Was it Jesus? It had to be Jesus, but he's not recognizable. He's just a sack of meat that has been brutally tortured and mangled and hung on a tree. And then you could smell him too. But I turn and I crawl. I figure that's heaven, that's got to be hell. I'm getting to the cross. I walk over to the cross, I grab a hold of it, I help myself up. It's real. Whatever this is going on, this is real. And I got on my tippy toes, and I kissed Jesus on his left foot. I see many crucifixes where his right foot is over. Definitely had his left foot over his right. And I can still taste the dry blood, the dirt, and the mud off his foot in my mouth when I kiss his foot. And right then, when I do that, I feel like my dad's there. And I don't know, it felt like I'm being chased home by the bully. And all of a sudden your dad shows up to save you, or your big brother. And I heard no words, but I knew something took me over, and I turned and I walked right up to the kid. And now I can see over the kid there's a dirt path. Down at the end of the dirt path, several cloaked figures and some black dogs. I'll come back another day and tell you about the case with the black dogs. Watch out for them too. They get in your bed, they shit all over you and your bed. That's also demonic venom, and then they just disappear. They look like a cross between a black shepherd and a hyena. Watch out for them too. Cloaked figures, men or female, I don't know. Can't make out features, but they're cloaked figures, and I've been warned by my mentors. The highest level demonic powers there are the cloaked figures. Watch out for them. Don't fight them. Get help. Get training. Don't fight them. But I know they can't come up the hill. I just drop to my knees, pull out my holy water, pour it in my hands, start rubbing it on the kid's head, praying and praying and praying and praying. Next thing I know, he looks at me and he's normal again. And just like a flash, we're back in his bedroom. And we just hug, we both cry, we both get up, we walk out of the bedroom, we walk down the stairs. His mother's looking at us, she knows something has happened, phenomenal, she doesn't know what. We never spoke another word about it, but we all sat down, and we're just staring at each other. And I broke the ice by saying, I'm hungry, you guys want a pizza? And we ordered Papa John's, which was right down the street. And they delivered pizza, we ate, and I left, and they too had moved. She moved back to California with her kids. The kids are doing great. She's closer to family now. And so, this is my life. And my wife is so stubborn. She will not let me work cases anymore, and because this is her path too. There's a reason why she's still here, reason why we met. She's related to Mary Queen of Scots and William of Orange. I think we knew each other in a past life. That's the connection. And so over time, whatever you are follows you. I was probably this many lives again, and one day, secretly, I'll go through a life regression thing with someone. You know, my mentors are hardcore. They're not religious fanatics, but they're hardcore. All you need is the Bible and God and Jesus and the Trinity. You don't need mediums. You don't need to do these past life regression stuff. I occasionally sneak out and do that kind of stuff. I'm a bit of a rebel. So we'll see where that path takes me. But this is our path, and I just want you guys to be careful because they're everywhere. And just be careful. Bless yourself before you go into investigations. Bless yourself afterwards. Command things to go to the foot of the cross and not follow you home. This business is full of hitchhikers, and the wrong hitchhiker doesn't even have to be demonic, although there's many of them. It goes from the demons to malevolent entities to non-human spirits. You just have to be careful, and thank you all for coming. I send my blessings out to all of you.
I have a question for you. In all your studies, have you ever done a look into the history of property?
Yes, we do that all the time. It's so simple too, we call the county clerk. We look him up. And there's also a great website, Who Died in the House.
Right.
There's a website?
Yeah.
You died in the house?
And
Because I used to do
house.
ghost hunting investigations myself, and before we go into a site, we look up the history of your house, and we figured out that here in the United States, a lot of times when you get a spirit that's attacking the household, normally it's because that there's a history of oppressed Native Americans connected to the site. So since you have people who are of Caucasian descent, that the history with Native Americans spurs that it wakes up. I say it wakes up old spirits that have a problem with the people that are living on the site. And then what you said with the Ouija board, if you use a Ouija board, that brings on a whole mess of problems with that. It wakes up not only them, but it also wakes up what I call the ancient spirits, which are what the Native Americans, the ancestors talked about.
yeah, good point. That is a very good point. I've got a lot of Native American friends. I ask them, do we pray to the same God and how do we the same answer? We don't know. We just call him Great Father.
Yeah, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in prayer. I just believe that we are made up of energy, and that it says in science that energy cannot be destroyed. It can just be moved from one location to another.
Very cool. I pray for you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
everybody.
you so much, Shawn.
I didn't even eat my notes.
It's actually, how much time do you still have? How much are you going to stay here?
What time is it, sweetie?
No, I mean like in the state or around here.